It's in relation to the first resolution that's presented. This is in accordance with our redevelopment plan to try and find a partnership within the police department to think of ways to partner with the police department to create crime reduction programs, crime prevention programs, and awareness within the CRE district. The chief was one of the first people that I met with when I started here, and we started brainstorming some ideas that would possibly beat the Chapter 163 threshold for funding. And I think we settled on this program to start. We look forward to continue funding this program, this installation, and the ongoing maintenance of the program. And that would be to create, to add on to the existing camera systems that exist within the city. And I think there's also a license plate reader involved as well. And place those within the OCRA district cameras, primarily in the, I guess we call it Triangle District, and up in the commercial corridors within the core of the CRA. The item number 1 resolution is authorizing me to negotiate an agreement with the police, an interlocal with the police department to fund such efforts. The initial cost for setup is, I believe, $150,000. And there's a presentation about the system. The gentleman is here from the company. The chief provided him for us to give a presentation, and he's more than welcome to do that at this point.
Before he starts with the presentation, let me ask the attorney, do you need to read this into the record or not? No. Okay. All right. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jordan Harris. I'm with Flock Safety, a territory sales manager here in South Florida. Can everybody hear me online? I'm on mute.
Yes.
Okay. Just going to share my screen real quick. So I'll run through this pretty quickly. So Flock Safety, we're a public safety platform. We work with law enforcement, schools, houses of worship, small and large businesses throughout the country, helping to reduce crime and make a community safer. So we're seeing what we're seeing across the country. Police budgets are cut. We're seeing staffing shortages, a rise in violent and a rise in property crimes throughout the country. We're hoping to address those issues through our technology. What we're seeing is a 97% city council approval rate. We're seeing 250x coverage with our public and private partnerships. Those are the partnerships with schools, colleges, small businesses, houses of worship. We just signed a deal with Home Depot, Target, and Lowe's throughout the country. Those cameras are getting installed, so that's going to provide more coverage for your law enforcement agencies without adding to the city's budget. And as of 3 weeks ago, Flock Safety was involved with solving 10% of the crime in the country. So although we've been around for 6 years, we've made tremendous strides recently with our technology to help law enforcement solve crime.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Do we have this in our booklet?
I don't
We have
think,
this presentation, in our booklet.
No, we only have the proposal from the police department, the written proposal from the police department. We have not received this presentation.
Yeah, I was not told to send this.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Let
sir.
me be straight. So we're doing an agreement with police who are recommending these folks? Is that how this is supposed to be working?
Yes, they already have an existing contract. The city, I believe, already has an existing contract with the existing camera system that currently exists in the Opa-locka area. What they're asking the existing company to do is expand that coverage to the OCRA.
Okay, so we already have agreement with the city for your services.
Not with us. You're currently using Report, correct? For your LPRs?
That's what I'm trying to understand. We don't have a copy of the proposal. That's number one. So I'd like to have a copy of the proposal at some point. But number two, okay, yeah, I need to have a copy of the proposal. That's number one. Number two, I thought this item is coming to the police, so they're recommending them to do this. I'm trying to understand.
Yes, sir. Yes, they're recommended. My understanding was that this was the existing company that has the cameras now, and that we were expanding into the OCRA. So they were bringing into the existing company. From my point of view, all I'm asking is for us to enter into local to transfer them the money. We're not involved in who they pick, how they pick them. That's a city process. All my process is to do is to get you to give me the approval to send the money over there. And then they would use whatever process they have in the city to procure those services.
Okay, well, let me ask the question again, Madam Chair, if I
Yes,
can.
sir. Go ahead.
Your company, which, you know, I'm kind of know about your company. You haven't been around long, but so it's not your company I'm really concerned about, although I like to see the proposal. I'm trying to understand how the connection with the legislation to your company. We currently utilize your firm or your company for our,
No, so you're currently using Recor, and Sergio Gonzalez can speak to this.
Oh,
They
okay.
signed an MOU with us to get access to our nationwide database of cameras, which was free. We provided that to law enforcement agencies around the country to get access to our nationwide database of hot list alerts. So they're not a customer of ours. I met with them a few months ago. So this is just to,
We've been using their platform that gives us all of their database for about a year. General Investigations is using it, and it's turned out to be very successful. So what the database gives us is every single camera that their current customers already use, and we've used those to solve crimes. Right now, with our red light camera program, we're using the Recor, but we are looking to make the switch because they're not really working out. You can have cameras, but if you don't have the database, then it's really not as useful for us, especially in solving crimes. Because the more databases you have, then the more information we get back. So we are using their platform for the database and license plate readers that are throughout the country.
okay, again, this is not a reflection or comment on your company, but the legislation, and I'm glad my colleague is here, so now we actually have a quorum, because I was a little uncomfortable getting this far into this discussion. We're contracting, if you will, with the city to provide this service. And based on your statement of what you said, the city already has this service. What I'm hearing is the city is using a platform, but not this company's service. So what are we entering to an agreement? I'm trying to be very clear on what we're entering into with doing this. So we just basically purchasing the platform, or, you know, in other words, if something goes haywire with this, are we going to look at this gentleman, or are we going to be looking at the police department?
I would defer to the police department to answer that question.
Well, we're basically, what they said, the platform, but we're going to be expanding that platform. So the police department will have to go into agreement with Flock to expand on what we currently have.
Well, that's, okay, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
that's the police department. I got that part, but I'm saying from the CRA perspective, I'm a little,
So for this, if I can,
okay,
Through the
maybe you
chair.
can clarify.
From the CRA's perspective, the CRA is basically granting the Opa-locka Police Department $150,000 to purchase this software and expand their existing camera system. We're granting them the money. We're entering into local to grant them these funds. This is allowing me to send that money over there. Once it gets over to their department, they have to use whatever mechanism the procurement code determines to pick the vendor to use that money. That's not something that we do. All we're doing right now is sending them the money in order to, so they have it to be able to purchase the equipment and the platform and the service.
Okay, and I'm torn with that, sending them the money, because once we send $150,000, we're entering an agreement with the city. So I'm going to make my original statement. If something is not correct in the CRA zone, with a camera, with whatever we're putting in there, who are we going to hold responsible? Is it going to be the city, or is it going to be the firm, the company? Who is it we're going to be holding responsible?
So, Board Member Kelly, the CRA board is you're about to, now that we have a quorum, to authorize the executive director to enter into an interlocal agreement with the city of Opa-locka's police department, which we are going to hold accountable to execute the services that are needed to provide camera coverage for the CRA area. So the police department of the city of Opa-locka will be responsible to this board to ensure that the funds are appropriately allocated, authorized, monitored, evaluated, assessed to deliver what we are contracting with them to do, which is to provide coverage of the cameras in the CRA area. Anything happens regard to the cameras and the delivery of the services, we are going to be holding the city of Opa-locka Police Department on behalf of this board. That's our intention.
Okay. Okay, Madam Chair, I want your time. I can be-
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, let the record reflect, Madam Clerk, that Board Member Williams has arrived. Yes, ma'am.
good afternoon, everyone.
Mhm.
I think my question is, so I know that we have to, everything that we do is in the CRA district, but have we done some type of assessment to say that these cameras are needed in the CRA district? Would the cameras be needed in another area of Opa-locka? Like, is there some type of like, citywide assessment that says that the CRA district is, highly, populated with crime, or like, is there something that says that while we're doing this?
That,
No, when we assessed it, since it's part of the CRA, that's what we focused on. Not only on the crime, but also prevention. The parks, especially the triangle, everything only in the CRA area was looked at.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, and the other thing is, that's what I was told, was that the cameras exist in other parts of the city and don't exist within the CRA. So we're basically covering the donut hole that's within the CRA, number one. Number two, we can only spend our money within the CRA boundaries. So that's the other reason why it's only within the CRA boundaries. Number three, I was told, and we've had complaints about increased activity even from the board members that sit here in certain areas. Those areas were relayed to the chief. He also said that he's in agreement to cover these areas. So to answer your question, that's where we came to an agreement on. As far as a formal assessment, the CRA didn't do one. We relied on the police department's professional opinion.
And of course, I mean, we know the triangle would be a part of it, but there are other areas within the city that, of course, are also part of CRA. So that's why I was just, is this more so focused on the triangle area part of the CRA? Or are we just saying all of, and I understand that the money, it has to be in the CRA district. But is this to mitigate what's happening in a particular section within?
No, all CRA. So basically all entry points and exit points to be covered by license plate reader cameras, the schools, the parks for the kids, make sure we don't have any type of sexual offenders entering the areas, those kind of, but it's only CRA area entirely. Triangle is part of it, but we have the whole entire Bundy Park, Ingram Park, and any parks that are within the CRA area.
and that includes the, I'm sorry. What number you think? That includes the downtown, Opa-locka downtown area, because that's a part of the CRA as well.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we put is like anything that enters into the downtown area, well, that's where we'll have license plate readers and cameras to check downtown. Downtown to get more of a PTZ type camera, which is pan tilt zoom, that we could actually look around in the real-time crime center, which will be part of this money.
So Madam
Board
Chair,
Member, Vice Chair Williams.
You might have touched on this in your presentation, but I'm curious to know, I've got 3 questions here.
Mhm.
How many cameras, if you have an idea, and if you all have done a bit of mapping, where the cameras will be installed throughout the area? And then just for my own knowledge, I want to confirm these are not red light stop sign cameras that will ticket folks for not following minor traffic laws.
No.
Okay.
So as far as camera locations, we're in the early stages. Funding's not even approved. So typically how it works is, we have discovery meetings. We have mapping calls with our solutions consultants. That's law enforcement that have used Flock. We figure out where Chief and Sergeant Gonzalez, where their high crime areas are, the entry and exit points, where their parks are. And then we'll map out where we're going to put the license plate reader cameras, the PTZ, which are the live and recorded video cameras. That's part of a whole deployment strategy, planning that out. And obviously based on what budget is approved, I don't know if that 150,000 is for 1 year, for 3 years. And then if the city is going to continue paying in the future, that comes into play in determining how many cameras and which type of cameras, because the cameras have different prices. So we're in the early stages. We haven't determined that. This was brought to my attention on Friday. Sergeant Gonzalez reached out. I was happy to come down here and show you the product. But yeah, and to answer your other question, this isn't facial recognition. This isn't speed enforcement. This is live video camera, LPR, but not just license plate reader. We're actually different from our competitors. It's a vehicle fingerprint ID. So we'll look at unique characteristics like different paint, bumper stickers, roof racks, different hubcaps. That's how we found, Amber Alert, missing children, murder victims, because if you don't have a license plate on the car, how are you going to find them? So yeah, that's kind of what differentiates us from our competitors.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can you explain what the maintenance is on the cameras and what is traditionally the lifespan of the cameras?
Great question. So we act as a service model, so you don't buy the cameras outright. I can share my screen if you want to see. Show you. All right, so these are all of our products and solutions. So what's included? So it's basically a service. So we have the Falcon, which is our license plate recognition. We have Raven gunshot technology, the Condor, which is our live video camera, and then the Wing Gateway, which brings in third parties. So if the city has existing cameras, we can bring in those cameras into the system. As far as life of the camera, they last multiple years. If a camera breaks down, we come and replace it free of charge. That includes training, data storage, cellular. Our cameras are solar and cellular powered, so you don't have to worry about, fiber optics, FPL. They're solar powered. The live video cameras, those are AC powered. So that's the great thing about working as a service model, is that everything is included in that price. Ongoing maintenance, training, troubleshooting, data storage, everything's stored in Amazon AWS. So you don't have to worry about any servers, any maintenance. We handle everything for you.
are you, finished?
So far, yes.
Oh, I thought you had 3 questions.
Oh, I asked them all.
Oh, okay. So, I'll ask this to the police department. What's the length of the 150,000? Is that 1 year, or is that multiple years? This agreement, is this agreement for 1 year?
I believe we started with the first year on that.
Okay,
The first year covers the majority of it, which is installations, which are not, after what's installed, you're not going to spend that much. Everything else will just be maintenance.
So, Madam Chair?
one
Go
more
ahead.
question before you go. And so, who's gonna be monitoring those cameras? Is this gonna be monitored through, or are they just cameras that are gonna be taking footage, and as you need them, you're gonna look at them? Or is there gonna be someone there that's monitoring those cameras to see, what's going
It will
on?
be the police department that only monitors the camera. They do provide a solution for real time, which when we move downstairs to the new police department, there is a real time center that's going to have a whole bunch of monitors, and it's going to be only police employees. This company has nothing to do with any type of monitoring or anything like that.
So that's gonna all be police work?
Yes.
Once the cameras get installed?
Yes.
Will there be a police that's assigned only to the CRA area to monitor, or it's going to be the police department in general?
if I may, part of the proposal, would include us paying for overtime, for the monitoring within the CRA, area.
So part of this 150,000,
It's not part of this 150,000. We would bring that back to you. It's not part of this 150,000. We need to negotiate what that number looks like. Their request was for an additional, I believe, an additional 150,000. And we'll negotiate that before we bring that back to you. Right now, we're just trying to get authorization to negotiate the interlocal and to get them in a comfortable position that they can start mapping out where the camera should go and that they have funding to move along with this project. And then we would bring the entire thing back to you.
Madam Chair.
okay, Board Member Kelly.
I- I-
Before you go, let the record reflect that Board Member Irvin has just entered.
Thank you.
I like the idea of what we're doing. I like the idea. I think it's needed, but I'm having some challenge with these parts that keep moving and not really understanding how they're going to connect. Because I'm hearing on the one hand, the technology, 150,000 is really to ramp up to get them in place. Now I'm hearing a different component about actually the monitoring. We're being told they're going to be monitored in the police department. But that's going to require overtime of someone who would be specifically looking at the monitors of the CRA. I'm also hearing that the technology that they use for this is different from what we use currently now in our system. So now, am I to understand when we move, or when you all move to the first floor where all of this modern stuff will be there, are you all switching over? So this is all one compatibility? Are we going to have two separate systems where the person looking at the CRA is looking at this system and the police are looking over here? Or is the monitors all in the same package and need to be compatible? I'm confused as to how that lays out.
So currently, we are using Record which is being paid through our red light camera program. Record is working out, but it's really an automated where officers are just getting license plate reader alerts on their laptops. So they're not constantly looking at it. The automation will kind of just send out so for example, if I put my trailer, which has the camera on it on 27th Avenue, stolen vehicle goes by, or an Amber Alert goes by, officers will also monitor on their laptops and cell phones, which also receive text messages, apart from the live monitoring on the overtime side. So it's not only just that officer there, it's every officer that's logged into the system. And some officers are actually proactive that even while they're not working, they're still receiving alerts. Miami-Dade County and Miami Gardens do have real-time crime centers that do share databases, and we hear them on the air all the time advising of stolen vehicles that are coming in and out of the area.
Okay, I'm still asking the same question because I'm not getting the answer. Maybe I'm not making my question clear. So there are going to be two different technology systems as a part of your board.
We will be looking to make one system.
Okay,
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is move away from Recore and just have one real-time crime center, one license plate reader company, which is us. We're a whole RTCC, all in one system. All you need is one person and a computer. I can show you exactly our full capabilities. It's a quick 2-minute video. This might illustrate exactly what the police is trying to achieve. I'll just show this to you real quick, because this will give you a better idea. We'll show you, and 1 sec. I think I left.
okay, while you're pulling that up, going back to kind of what the chair was asking. So, I mean, Commissioner Williams, I believe, was asking. So in terms of monitoring or making sure it's working or whatever in the CRA area, as part of your interlocal, we will be getting some kind of monthly report showing something or whatever that the board will get as to what is happening with the camera system in the CRA zone district.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay, wait, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just show you.
Welcome to FlockOS, Flock Safety's integrated situational awareness platform. FlockOS
That's the-
offers direct and seamless integration of all Flock devices in one simple-to-use map, in addition to alerts directly within the platform. FlockOS can quickly gather data from ravens to pinpoint the exact location of gunshots. In this instance, Falcon LPR cameras were able to connect the vehicle plate to the location of the gunshot that alerted directly within the map view. With FlockOS, we can go beyond just the Flock devices to bring in live video by incorporating existing features from a helicopter. I was able to track the suspect vehicle in addition to APL from patrol vehicles, while using real-time routing to predict a vehicle's direction. The officers knew they could wait for the suspect vehicle to reach a less populated area for the apprehension. FlockOS centralizes all of your evidence across the entire jurisdiction into a single, easy-to-use cloud-based system. You layer on top customer maps like their precincts, floor plans of key buildings, and traffic. We also launch community engagement programs to get neighborhoods and businesses alike to register and integrate their cameras. FlockOS offers a number of AI-related features, such as real-time routing. With real-time routing, you can use both video streams and historical data to properly predict where a vehicle is headed. This can be displayed at both the RTIC and on our patrols and DT. For increased mobility, FlockOS now integrates a mobile app that enables customers to receive real-time alerts and perform license plate lookup while on the move. Available for both iOS and Android.
The system is, I see the system and, what you're proposing, that's not really I guess it's tied into that. But there go. What you're proposing or your equipment is not really my challenge. What I want to make sure I'm trying to be clear of is the agreement we have to make sure that the CRA district gets the coverage, gets to whatever that we're paying for. Because I'm assuming that, well, no, I'm not assuming. The CRA area, the officer that's in the CRA area, going to be in the, will they just be in the CRA area? Or are they going to be in a zone that's part of a CRA area? Because when I look at that, they're zeroed in, we're thinking CRA, but are they going to be covering a portion of the city that's not in the CRA? Whoever's monitoring, whoever's looking, whoever's driving or whatever.
Well, from what I understand, this money, this 150 is for the equipment. I believe I heard you say that there's going to be another one for overtime. And then that money will not only be used just for this monitoring, but also for an officer that's going to be covering the CRA area.
Okay.
And I said, and from what I believe, the chief's vision was not only just a vehicle, but also a bicycle patrol in that area and whatever overtime for somebody to monitor CRA.
Now, I know the CRA's talked about having police visibility, and it's known that it's CRA, intensive. I guess the question that I'm really trying to understand, are we moving faster? Because it looks like this is going to be, the cost is going to be way more, because this 150, oh, that's my cue, more than whatever. I'm just trying to figure out what the total cost. I got the equipment. This is basic equipment, but now you got to factor in overtime and all the other parameters that's not part of this MOU. So this is basically just for the equipment.
Yeah, this will be a one-time cost. We are expecting that, we haven't come to an agreement yet on the costs. I think they were proposing 150,000 for overtime. I think that number is fine. We just, for a yearly ongoing maintenance, I think the chief and I just have to bring something back to you that makes sense for that number. That would include the monitoring, the bicycle program, and all that. But I'm comfortable with the $150,000 ongoing contribution. But that's not a part of this right now. This is right now to just get them started, so they're comfortable that we can negotiate an agreement to purchase the devices, set up the platform, and then we'll come back to you with the actual interlocal with numbers attached for the ongoing costs. But $150,000 out of our budget yearly to cover enhanced police services, I don't believe is much to ask.
Okay, I'm not referring to, what I want to see we're gonna get for the 150,000, but we're gonna buy the equipment, the technology to install, insert, or whatever. But if I'm hearing correctly, it's still not gonna be ready for use. I guess by the time you all do all the other parts, it'll be ready for use. Is that the intent?
Come back next month with something. So
Okay.
even before they even do whatever they need to do to even accept it at the city, we'll come back to you with the proposed interlocal with numbers in it. This is just to get them started so that they know that we're not, half talking, that we're serious to help. And then we'll come back with a proposal for ongoing assistance.
Okay, we've kind of asked a lot of questions. I don't know whether everybody have had their questions answered. One, thought that comes in my mind, we keep saying overtime. So I'm wondering, is this, I was under the understanding that it was gonna be an officer that was gonna be working solely for the CRA area. But now we're talking about overtime. So are you talking about an officer that have worked and this project is gonna be an overtime project? Because then that's gonna be, that's probably gonna be more than the $150,000 that we're looking into going forward.
Thank you for the question, madam.
Yes, sir.
So the implementing the plan, an officer, after he gets off work or on his off day, will come in on an overtime basis to work for the CRA in that area. But of course, if he's in the CRA area, which is a swath that runs east to west across the city of Opa-locka, any other concerns happen across the line, the officer will be able to respond in emergency level or to assist the other officers on that squad during that shift, as well as operating inside of the real-time crime center, which is located in our downstairs headquarters. So yes, the overtime is to cover all of that, but all for the benefit of the city and to add increased vision of visibility for our ability to track vehicles and criminals coming in and out of the city and assist in the investigative process in a real-time aspect.
Okay, if there are no more questions from board members, when we get to the item, then we could take the vote. I agree with the concept. I'm just curious to see when it comes back to us, what that number is going to look like and what that is going to entail. Because I'm looking for, at least I had in my mind, that it was going to be an officer that was going to be specifically assigned to the CRA area whenever they work. And it wasn't going to be an overtime officer. It was going to be someone assigned to the CRA.
So Chief, let me get this one. So again, we were throwing out lots of different ideas.
Okay.
And I think you may have heard that from me because that was probably one of my ideas.
Okay.
And that's what the chief and I need to continue to discuss. That wasn't one of their ideas. They've always told me that they wanted overtime officers, within the OCRA district, and then overtime officers for this program. But again, something that we're going to work out.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about because it was my preference also to have a dedicated, crew that we hire, that we pay for, that would just be there on a regular basis, that not being an overtime thing. But that's something that still can be discussed.
Okay, in the essence of time, then we could have the attorney read the question into the record.
You want to go back on the agenda?
do minutes and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. We could do that because Board Member Kelly
You got a core now, so I'll just.
Yes. and also Board Member Williams has to leave as well.
We
So
can, if we
before
can,
lose
if we
quorum.
can, before we lose quorum, there are just three things, four things. We can do all the resolutions and we could save the reports for another meeting.
Okay, let's do the minutes. We'll go back to the agenda. The minutes for November the 14th, 2023. Can someone move it, please?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Williams, second by Board Member Irvin. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Irvin,
Yes.
Board Member, oh, I think he's leaving. Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Russell,
Yes,
motion passes. Oh, Board Member Kelly said yes. Motion passes 5-0. 5-0.
okay, all right, Ms. Attorney, you could read the resolution into the minutes.
I'm sorry, did we approve both minutes or just one? I think there were two sets.
Did you know?
That's just one I see on here.
Yeah, there's two.
There's two. January 23rd.
Oh, okay, put my glasses on, that's what you do. Okay, minutes for January the 3rd, 2024.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Board Member Williams, second by Vice Chair Williams, roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Member Irvin,
Yes.
Board Chair Russell,
Yes,
motion passes 4-0.
we've already had public comment, so we can move right into the resolutions.
Item A1, a resolution of the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment District, CRA authorizing the interim executive director to negotiate and execute an agreement with the city of Opa-locka Police for enhanced policing services in the form of an increased surveillance cameras and additional potential safety measures within the redevelopment area. Further authorizing the interim executive director to allocate funds in an amount not to exceed $150,000 for the program. And further authorizing the interim executive director to execute all documents necessary acceptable to the general counsel for the program.
Someone move the item, please.
Move it.
Move by Board Member Williams,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Williams. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Member Irvin,
Yes.
Board Chair Russell,
Yes,
motion passes 4-0.
the next item,
Item 8.2, a resolution of the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing an interlocal agreement by and between the Opa-locka Community Redevelopment Agency and the city of Opa-locka for the provision of code enforcement services and to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the provision of such services.
This is in similar fashion to the previous item. This would be going into an interlocal with the city to provide for a code enforcement officer to be exclusively assigned within the OCRE district. The person would work for the city and the OCRE would just reimburse the city for those costs. And then we would also receive a monthly report on all of those buildings and structures and land within the OCRE that have been addressed by that officer. We don't have a number yet from the HR department on what this costs. So like, again, the previous item, once we get the final number, we will bring the final interlocal agreement that's agreed upon to you with a number and bring that back for approval. This is starting the process to hire a code enforcement officer and then transfer those funds over to the OCRA. To the city of Opa-locka.
any questions from the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
to the interim manager, will we have an opportunity to set priorities in partnership with the city? And so thinking about the things that we bring up as issues and making sure that code enforcement are focused on those issues, or is it specifically focused on what's priority at the city?
It would be what's priority for us at the OCRE district.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, call for the question, please.
I need a motion and a second, Madam Chair.
Okay. I thought it was,
No, it wasn't move.
okay, moved by Board Member Williams,
Second,
second by Vice Chair Williams.
Vice Chair Williams,
yes.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Member Irvin,
Yes.
Board Chair Russell,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Next item.
Next item on the agenda, a resolution of the Opa-locka CRA authorizing the executive director to facilitate and execute that certain license agreement with the licensed property in compliance with the commercial facade improvements program and to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the program.
So this is my favorite item. This is, as you all remember from the February meeting, we had a whole bunch of pictures up here of 10 buildings within the OCRA that we told you that we wanted to recruit those businesses to apply for the business incentive grant, which we approved back in November. And we went out and we recruited between November, December, January. We recruited 10 property owners that wanted to participate in the program. What we're doing today is beta testing our first applicant. And if this goes through, and when I say go through, I mean go through this process, also go through the state process for approval, and we get the first checkout, then we'll start on building number 2, building number 3, building number 4, and bring those back to you in April. This license agreement is for the owner of the Arabian bar down the street. This is the first one. It's a low-lying fruit. And also we'll be doing some smaller ones, some paint jobs. We'll be doing, those won't come to you because those are smaller. We'll be working on those in the next couple of weeks as well. This is the first substantial one. We're looking at a budget of approximately $85,000 on this one. This building would, the parking lot would be replaced. The windows will be replaced with impact windows, impact doors. The roof will be replaced. The historic sign will be replaced above the building, and also the bollards on the outside would be replaced. And this license is actually allowing us to hire a contractors to go into the property. The property owner is giving us the ability, the right, the authority to go on the property and make these improvements. He couldn't be here. Mr. Muhammad couldn't be here today because he had 2 previous doctor's appointments, but I know he sent his brother to, say thank you, and also that they are willing and ready to work with us in improving this first property. And that's what this item is.
Can I get a motion to move the item so we can have discussion?
Move.
Moved by Vice Chair Williams,
Second.
second by Board Member Irvin. Questions? Mr. Director, my question and concern is that when we're doing these projects, the CRA have a lifespan of only so many years. And when we're putting this money out in the community, what is the CRA? Because after some years, we may have to stand alone, stand on our own. We may no longer be getting money from once they sunset the CRAs. How are we going to sustain ourselves if we're continuously giving out and the CRA is not receiving anything in return?
Well, first of all, I think number one, that's what the purpose of the CRA is. It's to give away the money to improve the streets. The CRA is not like the city, where the city has to, have a reserve in case of a natural disaster. They have to take care of the debris in the streets and up and above, what their normal cost of running a city is, they have to worry about that concern. We don't have that worry. Our only goal is to spend the money. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why this agency is under so much scrutiny at the county is because we haven't spent the money. So the idea would be
On needed projects.
or needed projects, or the money just hasn't been spent. So the idea that we are, saving up for a rainy day doesn't pertain to us, in my opinion.
Okay.
In my opinion, our number one goal at this point should be to get the money out to improve the street front of our major thoroughfares in Opa-locka CRA as soon as possible. And if we can get 10 buildings done in 6 months, you're going to see what a CRA is supposed to do. And you'll still have some money left over to do other things. But I understand where you're going. We've had this conversation. And like I told you, we had some ideas about on bigger projects, on bigger project amounts, on bigger, that we would do maybe a loan scenario, not a forgivable loan scenario where it's treated as a grant. But if we wanted to help out a project in a significant way, that we act as a bank, so to speak, and actually loan out money at a lower interest rate than what the market has, but not giving it away as a grant. But if the market's at 7.10, then we're at 3.5. It makes the project go, but we also get something back on the back end because we're getting our money back. That type of philosophy, I think, could work on a larger project. But for smaller projects like this that improve the facade, that improve the street, I wouldn't worry about getting a return. I think the return is that the street is clean, looks nice, and the buildings are improved.
Madam, you go for it. Go for it. I've already asked a lot.
One question, one question. Madam Chair, through the
Yes.
chair, okay. Quick question, and maybe I missed it. There might have been a meeting or two but nonetheless, I was wondering why you said we were beta testing, you said the liquor store. Was this decided by the board to do that? That particular store, you said there were 10. That was a possibility. Why that store and why not any others as a beta test?
Very simple answer. And that is, you have property owners that are very easy to get in touch with and cooperative. And then you have property owners where it's pulling teeth to get in touch with them, even though you're trying to give them money to improve their buildings. So we went with the low-lying fruit, which is the person that got their paperwork in on time, that was very helpful with opening up the facilities to get the quotes. So the first one to the party is, he was anxious to get his building done.
Got it. No problem.
And so
I just wanted to know the
for
answer. That
example,
was
the
it.
number two is
And I'm not trying to judge or anything.
No,
I'm
no.
just asking, was
First
there,
come, first
did I
served.
miss something?
and
Got
the
it.
10 that we picked, and then it's those that have been all their paperwork on time. The scope of work of the project is done. I can tell you what right now, that if this goes through, the second one would be the print shop and the print shop and the restaurant that is at the corner over here, Miss Denise Lee, where her building will again get a new roof. They will install windows, paint, parking lot. The building is not owned by them. The building is owned by a woman in Jamaica who signed her paperwork. Those people that went through all their trouble to get all their stuff done, she's going to be second. And then we're working with the other people that are struggling to get their paperwork in. And then we'll go one by one.
Okay.
And I'll explain how that gets done with the next item.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
very easy question. How long do you think this will take to complete? And so I know that you mentioned it's beta. I know that we're just starting this, but I'm not going to hold you to it because I know the construction sometimes takes a little bit longer than we think, but when do we think it'll be finished?
So I want to answer that question in the next item.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, I'll answer that question in the next item. It's a more appropriate answer in the next item. But I can tell you that, like I said to the former mayor, I was going to call you mayor, Board Member Williams, Board Member Williams, that these people got their stuff in on time, so they're ready to go.
Yeah.
So they have their 3 bids in for their roof, they have their 3 bids in for their windows, they have their 3 bids in for they're ready to go. So once you approve this, now we'll send it to the state. Once the state approves, we'll start processing POs so that they could get started on the work. And then I'll go into why I did number 4 and answer the rest of your question.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? If not, Madam Clerk,
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Irvin,
yes.
Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Board Chair Russell,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Through the chair, know that you've approved, directed the director to enter into a relationship with the property owner. He needs someone now to execute the actual program itself, which is item number 8.4. So for the property owners who were listening, you heard the instructions as to what it is that you need to do to get in queue. A resolution of the Opa-locka CRA authorizing the executive director to facilitate and execute that certain facade grant project design and management services agreement for the implementation of the commercial facade improvements program and to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the program.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
so this item, we found out very quickly was absolutely needed. Now, when we've done this program in other places, some of the property owners were able to comply with the program on their own. When we started this program, when you all approved this program in October, November, I believe, we immediately went out to the street and started knocking on doors and say, hey, do you want to participate in this program? And we said, you know, this is what you're supposed to do. Here's the program. Here's the outline of what you're supposed to do, what we're supposed to do, what the contractor's supposed to do. And it became a reality very quick that if we had to rely on the property owners to get this done, this program was going to take a very long time to get done. So I thought, and I talked to our attorneys, I talked to other CRE directors, how do we find a way around this? How do we take control of this process? And the way we figured out is if we have a project consultant. And so what I thought to do was look out at local contractors, local developers within Opa-locka that can help us fix up these buildings in Opa-locka. And so the thought was to hire three of them or 4 of them to work on 2 or 3 of these buildings a piece. And in order to do that, you had to select one. I mean, you had to select, you know, one person for each project. And so tonight we're asking, and the only reason I'm asking this is because, and again, I've never met Mr. Walter before, but when I saw him on the video at your June meeting, before I was even hired, I saw a video of him where he came up to you and he said, I'm gonna have a duplex built within 80 days. And it's gonna be done. And I promise you that. And he wasn't getting anything from you or promised anything from you. And I think several months after that, I was hired and I went out to the site and he was well on his way to be completed with that duplex. And in fact, he did complete duplex in under the time frame that he gave you. So naturally, who would I go to as my first rehab project to consult, to coordinate this project would be Walter Enterprises LLC. And so he's graciously agreed to go into an agreement with us for this property only. And then once we bring out the other properties, it may be him, it may be another contractor. But that's the relationship we're gonna have with these property owners in order to get this project done. So you asked Vice Chair what the time frame is. I think Mr. Walter gave me on this particular one and on most of the other ones that we're doing, not that he's necessarily gonna do all of the other 9, but on this particular one, we could probably be done within 3 months. 3 months. You'll have a whole new 27th Avenue corner. We own the Chinese restaurant on the other side, which we put the fencing around. We're working on putting a decorative banner around. We're going to work on painting. We'll be painting our building, the Chinese restaurant. We'll be painting Mr. Ball's building. We'll be painting Jackson Soul Food 2. and Jacksonville Soul Food to annex. And we'll be going across the street to the shopping plaza over there. Will be that Miss Raynette. Raynette was her name. I forget her last name, but she owns the 4 retail units across the street. That would probably be the third application that will come to you in April for, again, overall rehab, parking lot, windows, roof, paint, signage, those 5 areas. And so that's our corner, and then we'll come this way. So this would be authorizing me to negotiate an agreement with Mr. Waldhauer to be the consultant for this particular project.
Any other questions from the board? If not, Madam Clerk, please.
I need a motion in a second.
Oh, okay. Someone move it, please.
Move it.
We were having
Move
discussion.
it.
I thought we did that. Moved by Board Member Williams,
Second,
second by Vice Chair Williams. No other discussion? Roll call, please.
Board Member Irvin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Williams,
yes.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Chair Russell,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Through the chair, item 8.5, a resolution of the Opa-locka CRA authorizing the executive director to execute and facilitate the development incentive assistance agreement with Palmetto Homes to include improvements for certain deeded sites, provide program administration of the OCRA Development Incentive Assistance Program.
So, Madam Chair, this is
Yes.
something that started before I started here. We're just trying to fix it. So there was an agreement that was entered into with Palmetto Homes, I believe in March of 2022. That agreement spelled out that Palmetto Homes would receive $300,000 for the development of several sites, including 2 single-family home sites, and I think there were 2 multifamily home sites as a part of that agreement. It was $300,000 for all of those things to be agreed upon. And you all sat through it. I only watched it on the meeting, so you know kind of the history. But when I got here, one of the first things that was sent to me by the state, or I don't know if it was by the state or by the city, but it was an invoice that the previous administration had tried to put through for a $300,000 payment to Palmetto Homes. And I believe it was rejected either by the city or by the state. So it was rejected by the state because it had no rhyme and reason as to why. Number one of the things I found, and I'm not a lawyer, but the original agreement had contradictory statements on the payout. In one section, it said that the payout will be on a reimbursable basis as the project is ongoing. And then another section, it said that the payout will be
In completion.
reimbursed when it's complete, when the CO is complete. So number one, you have, and especially when you only have 2 single-family home development complete, but you still have these multifamily developments that are incomplete and nowhere near starting because the entitlements haven't been secured or anything. So nowhere near starting. And then the $300,000 request. So that didn't go through. We subsequently submitted another invoice back in December for Palmetto Homes because we sat down with them and said, look, this agreement doesn't work. State rejected it. Let's come up with a new formula. And so we came up with the formula that, and this is before actually, we had the agreement with Waldhauer Enterprises for his duplex that we did the ceremony at. And so we agreed that what we would do is reimburse Palmetto Homes for the 2 single-family homes that they had actually completed, which came up to $60,000 per unit per home, which was $120,000 of the $300,000 that they were promised. They agreed, and so we submitted an invoice to the state to pay the $120,000. And we submitted an invoice to the state to pay Mr. Waldhauer at the same time. Mr. Walter was approved, they rejected Palmetto Homes once again. The reason why they rejected it again, this time it was our fault, because we didn't necessarily pay attention. In that the resolution still said reference the 2022 agreement, and it still had the $300,000 number on it. Didn't have, but the invoice was for $120,000. So the state basically said, you got to go back and do this whole thing over again. So we started from scratch. We're coming up with a new agreement for the two homes, reimbursing a resolution for $120,000 to get them paid out on those two homes. We will negotiate another agreement for the remainder $180,000 for the multifamily units that are not even near getting started. And so we're asking that you approve this. This will close out the Palmetto Home Development Assistance Grant. And that's what this item is.
Before we go into discussion, let someone move it, please, and second.
Move it.
Moved by Vice Chair Williams,
Second.
second by Board Member Williams. A discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just so I understand, the two properties have been completed.
Yes,
And where are they?
somebody help me. I don't know.
In here.
It's on Wilmington, I believe, Washington.
Washington.
Okay. Okay.
Very nice, by the way.
And one of them, someone has already moved in and purchased.
I think so.
Affordable housing? Or
This-
market rate?
This is workforce housing, but this was falling under the green housing initiative. So
Okay.
the home is green. That, at least that's what the former agreement states.
Okay.
Yeah, the green homes, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Urban. Yes. Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Chair Russell.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
That's it for the resolutions. I don't know if you want to go into the reports. I can give you quick updates on anything you'd like.
Well, if I would like to have, I think Board Member Williams has to leave soon. So, if you could take the concerns from the board. Would you all like to do that first? If we have any concerns from the board?
You meant board comments to move that?
Yes.
Okay. Sure.
Would you all agree to go with the board comments now so that, if you have one before you leave, we can get it in?
So I'd love to get an update on item number 5, which is the purchase of 391 Opa-locka Boulevard. So not quite a comment, but I would love to maybe touch on that if we have a few minutes.
So finally today, after this is one of the people that you're trying to do business with, and you keep calling them and calling them and calling them, and so I've been calling Mr. Bennett for months now, telling him that we may possibly interested in either leasing office space so that we can move the ground level, move our office to the ground level in the OCRA, or possibly purchasing the building outright to do an RFP for redevelopment of the site. And so he finally came back. I mean, we don't know what we can do unless the owner gets back to us. Finally came back to us at about 4 o'clock today, after 3 months of 3 phone calls a week. And the purchase price would be asking price of $1.8 million. And this is for the building located at 391 Opa-locka Boulevard. $1.8 million. And the rent for the space that he has at the corner would be $3,800 a month. Again, this is what he is offering. And he even agreed himself that the numbers were kind of high. We have asked for an appraisal on the lot, and we expect to get that appraisal back within a week or two. I was out there with the appraiser last week. And so the CRA, just so you know, as you know through your purchase of the Chinese restaurant, we have to pay the appraisal price or the average of the two appraisals, or we would need a supermajority vote to go above what the appraisal price is. So nothing is happening. We're just looking and seeing where we are. And if we'll bring you the appraisal back in April and see where we are.
Thank you.
Okay. First of all, Williams, so sorry, through the chair. Let me just say, Mr. Director. Thank you for these items that we have today. I always believe it's better to do one thing great and just a lot of things good. And so, every time we come here, I feel like we leave great and doing something really great that's going to impact our community. So I want to thank you and the entire board, as well as our legal team. So kudos to you for that, for the items and for fixing some of our past indiscretions. I did want to ask a question. The Shabundi Park, is that in the CRA?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe, again, if these are things that have already happened, so I don't like to mix church and state. That's how I always call CRA with the city. But sometimes it does tend to overlap for especially us that are commissioners. I really want to caution us, and I hope this doesn't mean this, no one thinks that I am against police, but there has been a numerous amount of items, not just on, but on the city side, that are building and supporting our police that we need, truly we do. But at some point, I really want us to really get the meat and potatoes of our park. And I just don't want to, like, I've seen, it has been, and I know you don't know because you don't, watch our commission meetings,
I do.
but it's just right now, all these items have been heavily driven by, what the police needs. And that's fine, but there are so many other things that we need. And so I am requesting that we really, 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 at some point, really take an active interest in, and I know I missed it, but I heard it was a fabulous workshop Saturday. But we have to, I would love to see some items on on our agendas coming up that is going to really rehab, do something to Shabundi Park. Something has to happen.
Sure. So
Okay.
I will comment on that because I know and I heard that was a hot topic. I didn't know about the meeting, but I heard that it happened. You could go back and look at the minutes. I actually put this on the agenda because the vice mayor had brought up some issue about a splash park in one of the parks. We actually came in and changed the budget and put $200,000. If you read the budget, it says $200,000 for parks. It's sitting there. Any board member can propose how to use that money. It's just a phone call or an email away. I understood that the Parks Board, there's a Parks Advisory Board that the chairman, they had on their agenda. It was on the front of, it was in the hall. I read their agenda in the front. There was a request by the board to speak with the executive director of the CRA, talk about park funding. I got on the phone and I called the chairman of the board, Mr. Brian Dennis, who I know from 20 years ago. And I called Mr. Dennis and Dennis, Brian, you don't have to have a board resolution to talk to me. Let's talk. What do you want to do with the park? I've never received a phone call back. I did watch their meeting. Mr. Brian Dennis gave a factual report about my phone call to him and about that board would be requesting a meeting with me to go over their items. I watched that meeting. I still have not received a request. I ran into the parks director in the parking lot the other day, and she could tell you. I said, "Listen, hey, I went to see Ingram Park the other day. It's a beautiful park. I think we could put a lot of money into Ingram Park to make it a great, great park. And I'm talking a lot of money that the CRA could put in that park to make it a great, great park. $1 million at least. So, and I told her, let's work on that together. So I'm willing and I'm here. We put it in the budget for 200,000. The budget can easily be amended for projects within the park. You'd let me know where you want it. I do plan on setting up a meeting with the Parks Director. She said she had, her ideas. Obviously, we have to make sure that any improvements that we do, are in guidelines with 163 and how we spend this money. But the money's there to spend on parks. It's just a matter of us deciding on what we want to do and how we want to do it.
So, thank you. So I think what I'm hearing, and it's gonna have to be a little bit more streamlined. There's one board here, there's our board over here.
There's a city.
And then there's a city, correct? So there's a lot of moving parts there. This is my opinion. If we're one board, CRA, we decide that 200 or plus dollars go to whatever park, then this board should decide what happens with that money, not any other boards, not any other entity. I think that as a board, we would communicate with parks so that they share with us based on what, or also if our Parks and Rec board have suggestions, those suggestions are funneled to this board so that we then, but I don't necessarily agree that we say, okay, here's the money, turn it over to another board. No, but I'm saying that was the misconception with the agenda item. But nonetheless, not to, I'm saying, and I would be happy to have a meeting, to do whatever, because this is my 4th year and I've just not seen any single, I can't even get a splash of paint on the basketball court. That's the easiest thing to do. Just take some paint and paint the basketball court. It's just something has to happen. So I think that is wonderful, but I don't want to either, whether I stay or not, I don't want to keep having this conversation and I'm sitting out there in the audience listening to the same thing. And I'm going to say, I heard this 4 years ago.
Well, I can tell you.
So, and I'm not berating you, please
No,
no,
I know.
but I'm ready
I don't
for
think so at all.
now I'm ready. The summer is around the corner. And we're still back to square one with nothing. Can we just do something? Ms. Lawson told me a grant was, I don't know anything about that. I don't know. I just keep hearing what's going to happen. Can we make something happen already?
I think one of the concerns Board Member Williams have been with this board is that we can't, if the city is doing a project, we can't take over their project. But what we can do,
Man, listen,
but what we can do, we can partner. Like you said, there are some things that that this board can do that can make those things along with the city happen.
Madam,
And I
I know, I hear
agree.
you.
It's
I hear
killing
you.
me.
I
It's
know.
killing me. Since I stood it,
Go
I
ahead,
got here.
Chair.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Go ahead.
Thank
Board
you.
Member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have been in this seat for 1 year and 5 months, and from the day I got here, I have been begging, as far as I'm concerned, begging for Shabundy to get a playground set. I don't understand with us having $7 million. Why does it take so long for these kids to get a playground set? I have no idea. When they wanted a Chinese restaurant, less than 90 days, the Chinese restaurant was purchased, done, in our possession. Everything we discussed last meeting is here. here to be done. I have literally, I feel like I've been begging for a playground set out of last year's budget. Now we're in a whole new budget and it can't still be the 200,000. It should be 400 if anything. Like these kids shouldn't be playing on that mess over there at Shabundi. Whether the city side have money or not, we have money. We have money. It should be done already.
So let me ask you a question. Has anybody, since I've only been here since August,
Mhm.
my first meeting was in September, which was a budget meeting. October, we did a rearrangement of the budget. But is anybody, no one's told me about showed me a picture of a playground. No one is, I mean, anybody can come or call or send a message or a phone call and say, look, I want this put on the agenda. Anybody can do that. I want this put on the agenda for the next meeting. Commissioner Kelly said on this code enforcement item, I want this on the next meeting. That's what he told me. And guess what? I made sure I put it on the next meeting. If somebody gives me something, show me a picture of a playground set, give me an agreement that the city says we are allowed to go on there and purchase a great playground set, then we'll get it done. But as far
Consider it done.
okay.
Through the chair,
Because
Thank you,
Oh.
Board Member Williams.
But before Board Member Williams,
Yes, the floor.
yeah, but I'm
Oh,
sorry to keep to because again, there are some restrictions with 163.
it's not a matter of arguing, Madam Chair. We have been talking about this forever, but I hear you.
We're gonna get done. We're gonna get, Mr. Executive Director, would you give us some direction? Everybody is in agreement with Shabundi Park, Ingram Park, and the other park. What's the other park? Siegel Park. We've been talking about it and talking about it. We talked about it with the previous director. I've talked about it several times with the director here. But we all have to get on the same page to make sure that we're not overlapping as to what's being done.
And
So that's why I've told the director, meet with the parks director, meet with Mr. Brian Dennis. Those are conversations that we have. So we're all on the same page. There's no need for us to act like we're not all thinking the same thing. We are.
And you-
It's just
And
a
you
matter
gave
of
me-
getting it done. Go ahead.
you gave me Brian Dennis's phone number, and I called Brian Dennis as soon as you gave me his phone number as the chair of that park advisory board. And I talked to him, and he came back and he gave a report to the Parks Advisory Board. And he said, I'm gonna set up a meeting. And he said, I want somebody else from the Parks Advisory Board with me in that meeting. And again, unless I missed the phone call or missed the email, no one's reached out to me. I've reached out. And again, I'm open. But to answer to go to the other point, Vice Mayor and Board Member Williams, the two of you probably remember because you went to the workshop when we had the CRA conference. The two county representatives, for lack of a better term, you went to the workshop and they specifically had a workshop about parks. And so when I say, we will do what we can within the constraints of 163, that's what we're going to do. Because especially with parks, the CRA cannot. CRA is supposed to go out and purchase buildings. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go out and fix up derelict buildings that need repair. That's what we're supposed to do. 163 is clear. But what the city cannot do is come in and supplement what the city is supposed to be doing. So if the city already has it in their park plan to resurface the basketball court or resurface the tennis court or put a splash park somewhere, if it was even discussed in 1 minute or it was a part of a plan, that's something that is an unallowable CRA expense. Because what you're doing is you're supplementing CRA money you're supplementing CRA money for city projects, and you can't do that. It's very clear. You can do parks projects. It just depends on what type of parks projects you can do. We need to get in a room and figure out what's in the city plan for the city to do, and what the CRA can do above and beyond what the city already has to do.
thank you. Because I gotta go. Through the chair, really quick. So tomorrow night, this will be a discussion point on the city side, that because we need to know Earth Day last year, which is coming up in May, I was told that, oh, don't do anything on the basketball court. Don't touch it because a grant, we applied for a grant and that grant should be coming in 30 days. That was May. We knocking on May now. So through the city, that's why I said. So what I will do is I will ask tomorrow night to ensure that if there's a parks master plan, we're going to eliminate some of whatever's in that master plan so that we can now, as a CRA, take over. Because right now we're hearing a bunch of like what we're going to do, but we're knocking on a year. And then we'll supplement. So we'll have like a map, right? Here's a map. CRA will handle this. City will handle this. Cut and dry so that the CRA can get it done because we have the money now.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you, Vice Mayor and board member, this is a big topic because it was a whole workshop at the CRA conference. Not only that, but I'm dealing with the same issue in our other client city in North Miami Beach with one of their parks and one of their tennis courts. And we couldn't do anything because, you know, it's in their plan to do something. They wanted us to fix up the tennis courts. And we said, we can't fix up the tennis courts, but we could possibly put the pipes underneath the ground to do the bathroom, to fix up the bathroom, because that wasn't in your master plan. So it is something we can do. Anything we can do stuff in the parks, but we got to make sure we're doing the right thing in the parks. And we do have the money to do it. Yes, we do have the money to do it. I recommend that we do like a complete overhaul of the park. And why do I say that? Because, you know, nothing is done there, and it looks like it needs a complete overhaul. Now, the other way that you can do it, by the way, and again, I don't want to get into this necessarily tonight, but if you want a complete overhaul of the park and you want us to do it, and again, I'm not trying to open up a can of worms here, but I know one clear way to do it is to transfer the property to us. And then we can do a whole, you know, we go crazy at the park because then it's officially ours. If it's ours, we can do whatever we want. If it's yours, we can only do, you know, enhancements. And I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that we do that. I think it's better coming up with an agreement on what you're going to do and what we're going to do, and then signing an interlocal agreement where we transfer those funds over to the city's parks department. And I see Mr. Dennis around.
Board member Irvin, board member Williams had to leave. Are you finished with your concern? You want more clarity?
More clarity, because it was on the agenda one time that we would discuss it, something happened, and it's just getting pushed further and further back. Like, and I don't have kids at the park. I want to make that clear too. I don't have kids at the park to play on anything, and my behind is too wide to get on anything that's gonna get put over there on the park. But the kids need a decent place to play on. So if I need to start looking at playgrounds, playground equipment and whatnot, Mommy Gardens just redid all of their playgrounds. I could actually contact them to get the information, because nobody said that. I thought that I would be overstepping my boundaries to say, here, I found this playground set, or I found that, or I found this. I thought that that was something that's done honestly on your level, and then you bring it to us and said, this is what, you know, we saw, and we're trying to get input on it. That's what I thought. But I'll be more than happy to reach out to Mommy Gardens.
But I don't even think that's the way to go, by the way. I mean,
Okay.
I think you give, it's definitely not up to me, because I don't own the park. We don't own the park. We don't have any.
And I don't either.
We don't have it, but you are steward of the park through your city commission head.
Okay.
And so if that's what you want done, then I would contact your parks director or your manager or your assistant manager and say to them, hey, I want this particular playground in the park, in our park. And they're going to determine whether or not that playground fits it within their plan, their parks plan. And if that playground fits within their parks plan, then they can take it to us from management to management to say, hey, would you guys fund this playground? You shouldn't have to do that. You should be talking to them because it should be going in accordance with their master plan, the city's master plan, not the CRA's master plan, because we don't have one. We don't have an interest in the park. We don't own the park. We're there to help them, but it's ultimately it's their park.
Miss Ray stepped out. Didn't she send you some stuff last week?
Not that I recall. I can check again.
Okay,
What's her last, how do you spell her last name?
RAY. Thank you.
Welcome. Mr. Director, please, let's bring some clarity to this. I think it would behoove us to have a meeting with the city,
Yes.
to have a meeting with the city so that you could get on the same page with what they have. And I've asked to see the master plan. I've never seen the master plan. I know they paid for it. But one thing that the CRA did do for the parks was we participated in paying for a portion of the fence. We were supposed to. Whether it was ever done, I don't know, because I don't, the budget is on the city side. So we were supposed to participate in that. But I think it behooves us so that it doesn't look like the CRA is not interested in building the parks or past Board Member Kelly have been beating that horse for a while.
Yep.
For us to get some things done in the parks.
No, I
Let's get it done so it doesn't look like we're not in agreement.
no,
with
absolutely. As I told
anything
you,
on the park.
when you took me out to see Ingram for the first time, when you took me out to see Ingram, I came back to you. I called you, I think, later, and I said, look, out of what we have left, just at Ingram, if we come up with some agreement, we could probably do $1.5 million just to make that the jewel of Opa-locka. Like, that's how far I would be willing to go to invest CRA money. And that's $1.5 million on top of the $200,000 that's already existing. But that's how far I would go. I would recommend that we do that, because I have looked at the parks and they are in some type of condition. So it's not from us, like it's not from me at least, that we're not moving on this in the 5 months I've been here. Out of the 16 months you say you've been. But we're ready, willing to go. If you want to talk to the parks director, we can all have a meeting, get the parks plan out. I'll take out chapter 163, which governs CRAs and how CRAs spend money. I'll give you the PowerPoint presentation from the parks workshop, where they call it the do's and don'ts of spending CRA money. And I'll bring that to you and show you different examples from cities where they did use money at parks and how they used them. But it's not to keep up the ongoing maintenance of what the city should be doing with the city's budget for the city's parks.
Right. Any other concerns for the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I do have just one comment briefly. I've been serving as the interim OCRA clerk since August of last year on a temporary basis.
Yes.
Hoping that you all would, at some point hire a permanent clerk. At this time, I no longer wish to continue providing clerk services for the OCRA. So I request that whoever is responsible for hiring a clerk or, assigning someone in the OCRA office to perform the duties, that they do so, but I no longer will.
Okay, I've asked, thank you, Madam Clerk.
And I was hoping that the full board would be here, but I will have this discussion as well with each of the others individually.
Yes.
Just so that they are aware. Of course, as a charter official, my duties are outlined in the charter. Anything in addition to that must be approved by the city commission. That has not occurred. And, based on that, I also, it's not that I don't want to assist. I'm short staffed at the moment. And I'm also a baseball mom, for those of you who don't know.
Yes.
And this kind takes away from that as well.
Well, you know, Joanna, Ms. Flores, we've said so many times over and over how much we appreciate what you've done. And I asked the director and board members as well if we can look out and see, but we also need to see, is there compensation that we need to pay Ms. Flores for the time that she has served on the board? And we would also ask that if we could please set aside a time that she would train someone, or if there's a clerk board training that they go to in serving the board. But Joanna, I've told you over and over how much I appreciate what you've done for us. You brought us a long ways. We appreciate it. Thank you.
She blindsided me with that one. That's, yeah, okay.
Okay, we don't have a quorum to adjourn, but I guess we have to go ahead and adjourn anyway.
I think the lawyer's gonna say something. I think Marlon's gonna say something.
Marlon,
Now I'm just gonna say that he has reached his last inning.
okay, thank you. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Good night.
So, when you speak with them, I know they